Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Jonathan DePotter from Behold Retreats. At Behold Retreats, they guide clients that are ready to accelerate personal and spiritual growth to realize the full transformational benefits of plants medicine like ayahuasca and psilocybin and provide safety, expertise, and curation with memorable private and group retreats available in idyllic locations like Costa Rica, baby. This was a really fun show. I hope you get a kick out of it. So let's go say hello to Jonathan. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low-carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, John, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Tracy. It's a real pleasure.
So what do I hear in the background over there?
We've just got the cicadas. It's just past 6 o'clock in the morning here in Thailand, and they like to make themselves known at about this time.
I am dying to go to Thailand. That is like on my big bucket list. Cool. So
yeah, sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say I've lived here for about 3 years now. I initially moved for corporate work, and it's been a really great time to spend this COVID period because all the tourists have gone home, so it's been super peaceful.
Oh, awesome. So for the listeners, John, that don't know you, will you just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Jonathan DePotter, and about 5 years ago now, I had my first experience with plant medicine, with ayahuasca in Peru. And at the time, I was firmly in the corporate world. I was firmly an atheist. I had my mind made up about most things, to be honest. And since then, my journeys with plant medicine have been very rewarding. They've opened the door to spirituality, and they've provided me with countless blessings in terms of motivation to care for myself very differently, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so through my own work and through my own journey, came to recognize that there was significant unmet needs in this area, and that kind of doubled and subsequently redoubled my motivation to guide people towards really positive, transformational, life-changing experiences, and to provide the right container for people to get the most out of this work and to sustain the benefits.
Okay, so let's rewind. 3 years ago, you were in corporate America, and it brought you to Thailand. What part of the States? Tell us about that.
So I grew up in Hawaii, and I, at 17, decided to actually move to New Zealand, which is why my accent has shifted slightly. And I lived 10 years in New Zealand. And actually, I was in the corporate world in Hong Kong. And so I was working for Accenture, which is one of the world's largest management consulting firms. And I just reached a point where I remember feeling and thinking there's got to be more to life. You know, I was chasing clients, I was chasing deals, I was chasing promotions, and it was just kind of that endless treadmill of what's next. And I guess I just reached that point where the soul was ready, and so I decided to take a year off, and as part of that, traveled through Central and South America, and ultimately found my way to Peru with a couple of buddies of mine.
And then, then what?
and then and then that was a very challenging few days. You know, these are very powerful medicines. Whether we were talking about ayahuasca or psilocybin, we were at an ayahuasca retreat, and it was probably two of the most challenging nights of my life. These medicines have, one of our advisors calls this medicine humble soup, and I think that's a very great nickname for ayahuasca. It really has incredible capacity to show us where we are, where we've done great things in our life, where we've done not so great things in our life, and really begin to help us to harmonize between our conscious and subconscious minds. And so for me, that took the form of showing me as a third person throughout my life how I'd been good to people and how I had been not so good to people. So it started with my mother, then it moved to my father, and then, other important people throughout my life. And it was humbling, super humbling, and helped me recognize so many opportunities for growth. It helped me recognize that I was the only thing between me and my potential, which, is not something I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. And helped me become more patient, more empathetic, and more courageous. But while I had so many insights and lessons while I was there on retreat, what actually ended up happening, Tracy, was that I returned back to normal over the weeks and month that followed the retreat. And so I came to recognize over time that that's super common, that people had these very profound, transcendent, breakthrough types of experiences, and then everything returns to normal. And part of that is because, our neural patterns have become so entrenched over decades, and just taking a week to go, down to the Amazon or to any retreat and hope to have a, fundamental rewiring of our thinking patterns is just insufficient. And so that's part of, again, what led me to establish Behold Retreats and what we're doing a little bit differently there.
So you went to South America or Peru for this experience exactly, like specifically?
No, so I was, the first 6 weeks I spent down in Patagonia. I was hiking and just winding my way through Argentina, through Chile, Uruguay, Brazil, etc. And I knew I always wanted to go and spend some time in Peru. My mother had actually lived there between 1971 and 1973. And so that, that felt like a real calling for me. And so two friends of mine came and joined for the Peru leg, as it were, one from South Africa and another from San Francisco. And so they came and joined me, and we did some amazing hiking as well as participating in this ayahuasca retreat. So it wasn't initially part of the plan. And so when my friend recommended, hey, he said, I've heard some good things about ayahuasca, maybe let's do a retreat together. I started to read, and it triggered a memory of a friend of mine that had gone on a retreat about 10 years prior. And she had left, kind of timid, shy, a bit broken. She had a really traumatic and challenging childhood. She was never sure of herself. And after actually a month-long retreat, she had gone and worked starting with really low dose and working to a higher dose. She had come back a completely transformed person, super high energy, motivated. She was organizing picnics and surfing and rock climbing and trips to the cinema and picnics in the park. And I was like, wow, who is this person? And I remember at the time that kind of registering in the back of my mind and going, okay, this doesn't align to the narrative that we've been taught in school around just say no. And this doesn't align to my own personal experience growing up in Hawaii, where I witnessed a lot of darkness and sort of negative energy around quote unquote substances. So that really did take hold. And so when he proposed that, 10 years following that resurfaced that memory. And, given everything that had, I guess, played out in my life at that point, at that juncture, I was like, yeah, this looks like a door that's worth exploring.
Yeah, it sounds so scary. Like, I don't even like to smoke weed or anything. I like wine. 2 glasses is like perfect. But what is ayahuasca?
Yeah, so you're right to say that, Tracy. It is scary, and I was scared. And I've had about 40 ceremonies now with different plant medicines, and there's still nerves. There's still butterflies in the stomach. Each journey is into the unknown, right? And so I think if anyone ever didn't have those butterflies, if they ever missed those butterflies, then that's probably a good sign to stop exploring the particular subject at hand. So like you, I was always quite anti-substance. Again, witnessing all the darkness that I had seen, honestly speaking, I had begun to drink, not problematically, but a bit too much. Hong Kong is a very high-paced city. I always say to people, if you think New York or Vegas is fun, like come to Hong Kong for a weekend. It's fun but frenetic would be a good way to describe it. And so, the experiences are powerful. The medicines can be initially very challenging to work with, right? So often we have a lot of physical, emotional, and spiritual healing to be done. And so being adequately prepared for these experiences is super important, because if you're not, as I wasn't, then it becomes even more challenging because you don't have any of the tool sets or understanding for how to manage the circumstances that can and do arise. And ultimately what we're trying to do when we have these experiences is, these plant medicines amplify what's happening in the subconscious. And we almost always have things we don't like that's happening in the subconscious. And so being able to ground ourselves, being able to, do emotional processing, to let go some of the charged experiences from our past that are coming up, and to be able to anchor around our intentions, which may relate to healing, they may relate to growth, they may relate to spirituality, to really progress our understanding of ourselves, our understanding of the universe, and the relationship between ourselves and the universe is really, what this work represents. And along with that come a lot of benefits to health, to relationships, to, our sense of purpose and belonging in the world, our ability to attract abundance in relation to the beautiful work that we're doing, understanding our unique gifts and strengths, all of those sorts of things. So, I'm not one of those people who says that these medicines are for everyone. It's a very personal decision, but they're very exciting for the people whose soul is calling and soul is ready. They're very exciting in terms of their potentiality to improve health and well-being for an individual.
Interesting. So specifically for you, you said that when you did it, after you were done, you were back to normal. What was normal? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so certainly over my 12 years at the time in the corporate world, I had picked up on some habits that were no longer serving me. Ease to frustration, right? I actually, through this work, I relived some early childhood trauma, which I never would have expected. I'm super lucky, loving parents, very protective, did everything they could the right way. And yet there was some stuff under the rug there. And that's super common for people who do this work, to relive traumatic childhood experiences that have limited development and are manifesting in our everyday character. So the example that I sometimes give, and this isn't my example, Tracy, but the example I sometimes give is, imagine if you're 5 years old and you're carrying in some groceries for mom, and mom's had a long bad day, and you drop the groceries and something breaks out onto the floor. Now, in that moment, in mom's moment of weakness, she says, oh, you never get anything right. Just get out of the way. Now, for a 5-year-old child, they don't have the ability to distinguish between that which is mom at the end of a bad day and that which should take hold in the subconscious mind. And that can and does take hold in the subconscious mind. And now the next day, the child's at school playing with some friends, gets the ball, and it's the moment of truth. And in that moment of truth, that tape replays itself. Oh, you never get anything right. Just get out of the way. Now, something as minor of an infraction as that can fundamentally set a child on a different trajectory and growth path. And so for me, some of these early childhood experiences, growing up in Hawaii wasn't all sunshine and lollipops. Like, I was bullied a lot. I was growing up in a pretty Hawaiian local sort of a village. I was the white kid with hippie parents and, wearing secondhand women's clothing and a silly haircut. And so, I had some early childhood experiences or even childhood experiences that were challenging. And so to relive those and associate, reduce the emotional charge associated with those experiences, to process the emotions in relation to those experiences, and ultimately to become more patient, more loving, more empathetic, less frustrated, less prone to anger, was really a large part of my healing journey. And so, yeah, for me in that first experience, I was shown all of those things, but I wasn't able to integrate. And that's a word that you'll hear a lot in relation to plant medicine and psychedelic therapy. Is the key is that, yes, okay, you've had a profound transcendent experience, but that's not what you want. You don't want an ayahuasca retreat. What you want is an improvement to the quality of everyday life. Mm-hmm. Now, for that to be true, there's a lot more that's required around one of these retreats to help us prepare and integrate the experience into our character so that we can begin to identify and overcome some of those self-imposed limiting beliefs or those challenging and charged situations from our early childhood or earlier in life, if that makes sense.
Kind of. I understand like the childhood experiences and everything that happens to us from 0 to 7, like really forms our character subconsciously. And I love the idea that it sounds to me like a way that you can release a bunch of those loops.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of quickly, I guess, compared to traditional forms, I have a lot of questions for you, John. Okay, so one of them is, how long is the typical experience, like the retreat or what have you?
Yeah, so we do retreats of different lengths, and the ceremonies themselves can also be of different lengths, right? So just to give you kind of a scattergun insight from, the quickest and some of the most intense experiences that you can have on this earth to some of the longest and deepest experiences that you can have. So, there's a medicine now that's described as, it's known as 5-MeO-DMT, which is not one that I'm necessarily recommending to anyone. It's one of the most powerful that's out there. The experience lasts between 10 and 20 minutes, but you are ultimately shot out of any sort of 3D semblance of existence and into non-duality in the space of 10 to 15 seconds. And subject-object completely disappears, and you are in a transcendent realm for pretty much the entire journey. And that does a lot for our neurology. It's got very strong neurogenetic properties to help us grow new neurons and new neuronal connections. And it's an experience that many people have tried to reduce to natural language, but one that nobody can come even close. By contrast to that, an ayahuasca experience, or say a psilocybin experience, is somewhere between 3 to 8 or 9 hours, depending upon, which medicine and how much you've taken and whether you've, doubled down in terms of your dosage in the middle of the ceremony. And, that's a pretty long experience, I would say, by most people's standards. And then there's also, a medicine that's very powerful for opiate, overcoming opiate addictions. And it's got all other spiritual and growth and healing purposes as well. But it's from Gabon. It's called Iboga. And personally, I've only had one journey with Iboga. My own personal journey was 36 hours straight. One of our advisors had a 94-hour journey with this medicine. So it's a very deep experience that can be had, a very long experience that can be had with Iboga.
Wow. Have you done that first one?
I have done that first one. That's the one that I work with at the moment, actually.
Which one do you like the best?
They're very different experiences. I would say that once I would say that with 5-MeO-DMT, I would encourage anyone who is interested in exploring that to first spend preferably years calibrating and understanding and able to navigate within this realm before trying to move to something like that, because it's just fundamentally so powerful. And second to that, there are very few people in this world that I would trust to facilitate such an experience, because the realm and the quantum and the complexity of things that are happening in the spiritual or energetic space are so high that the overwhelming number of people who are working in this space are not able to protect or facilitate you through one of these experiences in such a way that can give you the confidence that you should be looking for as you enter, this sort of new paradigm.
Sounds like such a trip. I mean, I have no idea what that would be like, but it sounds interesting. So let's get back to so talk to me about your retreat center and what you guys do over there.
Yeah, so we host retreats in Costa Rica, Mexico, Peru, and the Netherlands at the moment. And what we do is 3 weeks before a retreat, a 1 or a 2 week retreat, and 3 weeks after a retreat. And that's to allow time for us to really get to know our clients, for us to guide them in some of their own self-inquiry, to teach them tools for better cognition, to be more conscious of limiting thought patterns, limiting beliefs. And we've all got them. There's many, many layers to that. And also to teach them tools, as I mentioned before, for emotional processing. So as these charged experiences come up, how do we release them out from the body? As I mentioned before, we've often got trauma, and that's, known now more and more to be stored in the body. And so we want to release that out. So we want to, really help people get a firm grounding in themselves in the lead up. And, our coaches and therapists that work with our clients are usually trying to help people release a lot of those lower level energies and emotions, right? So it could be shame, guilt, fear, apathy, pride, envy, anger. What have I missed? All of those sorts of lower level emotions that we tend to carry around, and begin to release a lot of those ahead of the retreat, because as much as possible, we would like to spend more of our time in the upper level emotions rather than the lower level emotions. So the more that we're able to release, in fact, ahead of a retreat, is the better for our retreat, because we're not just amplifying negativity. Hopefully we're amplifying more of the beautiful experiences and less of the negative experiences, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. You get rid of the low vibe emotions and focus on the high vibe, so that your outcome, I get it.
100%. And if there is to be one goal from this work, what we're trying to guide our clients to is to sustain an elevated state of consciousness. What these plant medicines do is temporarily increase our frequency, temporarily increase our vibration. And what the science tells us is very interesting, which is that, number one, it improves our joy for life and our sense of the miraculous and all of those sorts of beautiful things. It improves our relationship to the sacred, the spirituality, and really deepens that. But what it doesn't do, and I think it's important, is it doesn't remove our feelings of negativity and toxicity. And I think that's correct, because if this was just a silver bullet that did all of the work for us, then it would be like, being crowned for a marathon that you didn't run. Like it would rob us of our own evolution and self-determination. And, I know that there's a lot of people on your podcast that are on their healing journey to have been granted success without the journey itself is empty and tasteless, right? It's the journey and path and the determination and the grit and waking up every morning that has earned you that victory and that success for yourself. And so, there's people who have been working for decades with plant medicine. There's the strongest advocates, and they're like, yeah, you have to try this. It's those sorts of people that often are skipping the mental and emotional work, and they're bypassing into the transcendent and profound. And often they're not doing so good because they haven't done some of that kind of core fundamental mental and emotional work. And so I always say to people, look, psychedelics are not the answer. They're a very interesting and exciting tool, but we got to do the work. That doesn't give us the shortcut. There's an acceleration, but it's not a shortcut.
So are they addictive?
No. So the science has told us, scientifically speaking, medically speaking, all of these substances are classified as non-addictive. I don't think I've ever had an experience where I've woken up the next morning and go, love to do that again immediately. Very powerful, right? There is some capture of language that's happening in the corporate world at the moment. So, ketamine and it looks like soon MDMA are synthetic chemicals that are very strong psychoactive chemicals, and they're being rebranded as psychedelics so that corporate interests can claim the ground of psychedelics and link to the medicine in the lead up to the decriminalization and legalization that we're seeing at the local, state and even nationwide level. We're seeing, incredible progress being made. And so, of course, there's people with hundreds of millions of dollars that are very motivated to rebrand ketamine and MDMA as psychedelics. And those do have more addictive potential, unfortunately.
Yeah. So are those actual plant substances, or are those chemical substances so they can put a patent on it and charge $1 gazillion?
Yeah, you've raised an interesting. There's so many interesting dynamics in this rabbit hole, and the reality is that in the West we've got this Western obsession with compound isolation that allows for the control of a single compound, and it allows for dosage control. And so the overwhelming majority of the science that we might say is quote unquote in the psychedelic space is using synthetic compounds instead of, the beautiful magic mushrooms that we have that are growing everywhere. And so, the synthetic compounds, I think at latest check, the price per gram is something like 5,000 USD. And I mean, you can buy a grow kit for $40 now. I'm not encouraging people to go and have these experiences without guidance. I'd very much encourage people to have some guidance around these experiences. But unfortunately, yep, as you said, it's the cycles are repeating themselves into the psychedelic space.
So the magic mushroom, is that kind of like your plants that you guys do? Is that similar, or is it the same thing?
It is. So in the Netherlands and Mexico, we run magic mushroom psilocybin retreats, they're a powerful medicine as well. They're not as strong as ayahuasca in the sense that I think magic mushrooms are still a mental and physical experience, but they're not as purgative in the sense that it's common to have with say ayahuasca, which the underlying molecule, the psychedelic molecule with ayahuasca is DMT. Which is also described as the spirit molecule. But, ayahuasca itself has got about 463 compounds in it. So it's a very complex medicine that doesn't really fit our Western medical model, if that makes sense.
And where do you do those retreats?
Mostly in Costa Rica and Peru. Those are, two amazing and beautiful places to do work with ayahuasca.
Interesting. So earlier at the beginning of the show, John, you said that you were an atheist. How has this experience or these experiences changed your spiritual journey? Are you still an atheist?
Well, no. I came from hippie alternative spiritual parents, and so I rejected as much of that as quickly and early as possible as I possibly could. And so it's been a humbling return to recognize and admit that, okay, my parents had some of this stuff right, and I had some of this stuff wrong, most of it wrong. So yeah, I mean, it's I think for me personally, as an atheist, there's I guess an underlying belief in chaos, and that evolution itself does not have any sort of higher interests or higher order. It's just chaos playing out, and survival of the fittest, and there's no beauty or harmony necessarily within that. And then to see and believe in the world from a different perspective, and that evolution is playing out exactly as it's meant to, is just a fundamentally nicer place to come from. And in terms of how one then interprets and sees things like a coronavirus, okay, here's something that is sharing with us and showing us that if we do unnatural things in unnatural amounts in unnatural ways, that there's going to be a counterbalance to that. And so we need to recognize that message for what it is, and try to find our way back into balance with the universe. And I think a lot of the challenges that we see at virtually every level of life today, whether that be the systems that are perhaps no longer fulfilling all of the intentions that we had set out for, or dynamics between different groups of people, or the financial markets. There's so many systems that have been around now for hundreds of years that are, I think, really being tested at this particular juncture. And I think part of that has to do with coming back into alignment with some of the laws of the universe. And those are immutable laws that we cannot be out of sync with for too long. Whether we're part of that picture or we're not part of that picture, the earth and the universe don't really mind. So if you excuse my French, if we're able to get our shit in order, then, and realign to these laws of the universe, then that's going to be really amazing and beautiful. And it won't necessarily be the easiest of transitions, but it's important that we get there, and that we get there as harmoniously and quickly as possible as we can together.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because so many people are talking about 3D, 4D, 5D ascension, Great Awakening, I can't remember, Age of Aquarius, all this stuff, and I really haven't put the pieces together very well. I have a feeling I'm a little beyond the 3D, but I'm just kind of confused about it all. Do you get all that? Can you explain it?
I can say that I understand more than I used to, and I can also say that my mentors, my spiritual mentors, understand a lot more than I do, and they've run out of teachers, and they're still learning. So that's very exciting, and I'm still learning from them. And yeah, there's a lot of growing interest in this area, and a lot of improvements in the quality of the conversation, I think, in relation to this space. And we're coming to recognize that the movie The Matrix is perhaps more documentary than it is sci-fi thriller, and that this is a stage. We're playing in the 3D world as a stage, and the game of life is our opportunity to evolve and to recognize this stage for what it is. And the moment that we come to engage in this beautiful play for what it is the moment that we're able to recognize each opportunity for growth as it's thrown at us. Whether that's the guy who's cutting us off in traffic, or someone who we feel has betrayed us, or whatever it is. It's just an opportunity for self-reflection and to transcend the challenges that are being put before us. And for some of us, we need to have that same opportunity thrust at us for decades before we learn that lessons. For others of us, we immediately see it, and we're able to move past it. And so I think we're all here to evolve, and there's no right and wrong in terms of the speed at which that evolution takes place. But fundamentally, that's the purpose. And so, as we do this work, we clear not only our own karmic backlog from this incarnation, but we also have access to past incarnations and the karmic backlog that we've incurred over lifetimes. And when we have those experiences, we go, okay, wow. So not only have I got work to do to clear some of the bad stuff that I've done earlier in life, but I've also got lineage stuff, and that carries its own weight and its own opportunity with it. And so, yeah, it's super exciting. And I think as people refer to it more and more as the matrix, right? And so as people transition into this 5D and drop space and time from their reality in their meditation practice or in their plant medicine experiences, and come to recognize that we are eternal souls that transcend space and time and much more, that life takes on a fundamentally different meaning. And the recognition and realization that it's all a reflection of consciousness, and that the nature of the universe is consciousness, and that we are all one. And we might look to treat each other accordingly. If we're all one, then it's all the reflection of the same consciousness. And
Yeah. That is something that most people have no clue about, I think. I think at least 90% of our population, they're just not aware. They're not aware of anything other than the hamster wheel and the commute and, the routine and the habits they're in,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What's your website? Tell us, how can people find you if they're interested in one of your retreats? And are you guys doing them right now with COVID and everything, or did you have to take a break?
Yeah, so in Costa Rica, we've taken a break. I got that wrong. In Peru, we've taken a little bit of a break, but in Costa Rica, we have retreats ongoing. So we've actually got one starting day after tomorrow here. And we've built a new ceremonial area, outdoor ceremonial area. We've reduced the number of people that attend each of our group retreats. We still do quite a bit of private work as well. For people who are financially in a position to do so, it's easy for me to recommend doing private work, because you can just make so much more progress when you don't have to worry about other people fundamentally.
Wait. Okay, back up. What do you mean private work? Like you don't have to go to Peru or Costa Rica? You just can do it at home? Is that what private work means?
Private retreat. Private retreat is generally what we do for clients. So it removes a lot of the distractions, right? One of the nice things about doing a group retreat is it removes a lot of the distractions, right? So you don't have your normal buzzing life around you. You're in a retreat if you come and do a retreat with us, it's 7 to 12 other people. Now, if you remove all those other people, then you've got even less distractions, and it's just you and nature and the universe and the practitioner, the guide who's helping you understand whatever it is that you'd like to work on. And so that's even much deeper as an experience. And so after years of group retreats, I found the dollars and the courage to begin to do private work, and was able to make just orders of magnitude more progress in a shorter space of time. So yeah, for us, we're on www.behold-retreats.com. There's no book now button on our website. You have to come and speak with one of our team so that we can calibrate energetically and see if we're a good fit to one another. We're not for everyone. We're not the cheapest game in town. We do a lot more for our clients that I haven't spoken about. There's so many layers to this rabbit hole and layers to this onion that we are quite differentiated in terms of what we do, but we're not for everyone. And so we tend to focus predominantly on people who are doing very well and people who want to be doing much better, rather than people who are in a serious funk. If that makes sense. So that's really our focus area, and you can find us there.
Like high performers that want to go higher.
Yeah.
And I have time if you want to explain that, the layers of the onion. I have plenty of time.
Whew, yeah, where to start? So there's, I guess I'll start by sharing some of the spiritual and energetic stuff. So generally speaking, we have energetic entities or frequencies within us that are no longer serving us. And so part of this work is to remove some of those elements and frequencies. And that's a journey. It's you those frequencies that exist within us are a byproduct to some extent of who we are. Some of them can be described as autonomous, but if we just remove them for the sake of conversation, they'll come back because we haven't changed. And so there is a little bit of a upward spiral in the sense of, as we do mental and emotional work and have some of those breakthroughs in relation to our limiting thoughts and beliefs, then we can clear some of these energies. And maybe if we clear 10 of these energies, 5 come back instead of 10 come back. And then we go and do more work, and maybe we have some more breakthroughs during a ceremony, and then we clear those next 5, and maybe 3 come back or 2 come back. And so, these are energetic elements that are not really serving us, if that makes sense. And there's very few people who work in this space who have a sufficient understanding of the quantum field, or even sufficient sensitivity to the quantum field, to be able to tap in and see those energetic elements that exist within our bodies, our spirit, and to begin to find out which of those are ready to be released from our being.
So when you say that, are you referring to the student or to the instructor?
The student is, or the client is, has the energetic elements, and then we have a quantum healer within our team that actually taps into our client's field and begins to do some of that work. And then here's where it becomes even more abstract and woo-woo, is that can be done remotely, which is something I would have laughed at a period of time ago, but I've seen enough to know that is the case.
Yeah. I've had some cool people on the show and done cool work with people like that. So I've seen it. I had a girl from Australia do a reading for me that was like 2 hours long. And
Wow.
she hit, like, she knew. So it was really something. So I believe all
Yeah.
that stuff. I think it's so cool. I just wish it was, well, I talk a lot about it to my clients, just about, quantum entanglement, and what we're made of is we're 99.9% energy, and they just don't, but the more they hear it, the better. You know what I mean? So,
For sure. Yeah, and it's as you were saying there, Tracy, it's an exciting time because, like the Australian that gave you your reading, we all have unique gifts and strengths that might be described as, superhuman relative to our current experience. And so part of what this work represents as we elevate our consciousness is we tap more into what those skills look like. And that's super exciting. And in particular, in relation to plant medicine, there's 2 different schools of thought that are in hot pursuit, right? There's the scientific path that we spoke about before, and then there's the spiritual path. And now I see some of the sciences taking a greater interest in some of the spiritual knowledge, which is very exciting, and one of the things that, we're really dedicated to. But, the realities in terms of the quality practitioners in this field, they have inherent capabilities, inherent skills and strengths. And so it's not that we need to, pump 10,000 people through psychedelic therapy course in order to become psychedelic practitioners. What we really need to do is find these people who have these incredibly unique talents and gifts. And I don't think I'm one of them, honestly speaking. But some of these people have these incredible talents and gifts that are able to tap into these fields because they've got such a heightened sensitivity to these energies, and to help them really cultivate and bring those skills forward to be able to improve the speed at which we can improve one another ultimately.
yeah. I actually have 4 teachers of mine that are all really tapped in, and they're amazing. So I'm just learning and growing so that I can hopefully be able to do the same work, So
That's awesome.
That's cool. Well, John, you are just a really interesting guy. It's been really fun chatting with you. And I'm going to have to look deeper into all this because it's just got me curious.
Beautiful. Yeah, and as and when questions arise, there's so much information out there. It's notoriously difficult to research this well. So I'm always here, happy to answer any questions that you may have. As much as anything, our focus and passion is on raising education and awareness in relation to this, rather than salesmanship. Like that's really not the focus.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that. One of my clients or prospective clients today said, "Okay, you sold me." I said, "Well, that's not what I'm trying to do. I want you to sell you. Like, this is not me selling you. This is you going, yes, this is what I need." So that's cool. But are you guys on social media anywhere?
Yeah, we're on. I think we're on most of the platforms. I think I'm mostly active on LinkedIn because we are focused on professionals that could do with a little bit of a transition, a little bit of a wake up. But we're also on Instagram at behold_retreats. Always happy to connect there and see if we can be of service.
And you're on Instagram under your name?
At behold_retreats. I'm on there. A lot more clients are adding me on Instagram on my personal account, but I'm not adding anyone back, to be honest.
Okay. But I mean, I meant on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you're under your name or your company name?
Yeah, Jonathan DePotter, and we're also there as Behold Retreat. So always happy to have a chat on LinkedIn, and we're at such an exciting juncture in relation to our individual and collective evolution. So always happy to connect, have a chat, and see what good things may emerge.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, my dear. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will talk soon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I found that super interesting, and I hope you did too. Please check out Jonathan's website and connect with him. You can find the links directly at our blog at highenergygirl.com/show. I hope you enjoyed it, so go out and make it a great day, everyone. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.